Aaron Rodgers was terrible for the Steelers in their 25-10 loss to the Chargers. Is he washed? Is it over? Or was this just a bad game? If the Steelers are going to go anywhere this year, they need it to just be a bad game, but they also need to be prepared for when he does play better. I'll talk about what they need to do here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Steelers, your daily Pittsburgh Steelers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. This show is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcasting network out there. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook, the #1 sportsbook in America. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Go to FanDuel. We'll have more on them later. As always, you can find this show in your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoy it. Subscribe to this channel to get all of your daily Monday through Friday episodes, as well as our bonus content. We have a lot to discuss here because this is not a victory Monday, and it's, in fact, Steelers got their butts whooped Monday because it was ugly in their 25-10 loss to the Chargers. I was getting ahead of myself with some other stats that we're going to be pointing out. But the Steelers, I don't think this is like the other losses they've had this season. When you look at the way that they've played and the schedule they've had this year, the Steelers, when they lost to the Seahawks, you could say, well, they were in it, but they had the dumb Caleb Johnson kickoff thing, and then they had some other things like, okay, that's it. The Bengals, they got shredded on the defense. Same thing with the Packers. This loss is a bit different because the Steelers defense came to play in this one. And it wasn't just that they eventually just ran out of gas. They were bringing it throughout this game. They sacked Justin Herbert 5 times. They didn't get those turnovers. Joey Porter drops an interception. They did some things here, but schematically, they were all over on the Chargers. They took away a lot of the things that they wanted to do. It wasn't until eventually the Chargers just kept getting chance after chance that eventually they found some answers. And it was the things that you were worried about going into this game that you needed to be able to do. You needed to win the turnover battle. They lost it 3-0. And you needed to win time of possession, or at least mitigate time of possession. They lost that 37 minutes and 35 seconds for the Chargers to 22 minutes and 25 seconds for the Steelers. And a lot of that is behind Aaron Rodgers, who was terrible in this game from start to finish, not seeing his reads. And I think I want to emphasize this because I think one of the biggest misnomers that's happening right now, one of the biggest things that's getting said, I think a lot of people are just getting wrong entirely. They're like, oh, man, this is why you needed to go out and get a #2 wide receiver. I don't know if you take prime Antonio Brown, you put him in this offense, that Aaron Rodgers would have seen him in this game. And that's how bad it was for Aaron Rodgers, because there were plenty of open guys. And sometimes he even saw them, and he was still just missing them. It was a very bad game. And the Chargers deserve credit. They kept the Steelers off schedule. They were able to do a lot of things the Steelers defense was also doing, pressuring the quarterback, taking away initial reads, making him have to cycle through his reads. But you saw, I think, Aaron Rodgers show his age a little bit, where Justin Herbert was getting rolled up on, and he got sacked 5 times in this game. The Steelers defense, they came to work in this one. But you saw him keep chugging, keep his eyes downfield, keep plays alive, and not be afraid to keep striving, keep pushing. And you saw after those first early hits that Aaron Rodgers took, I think you saw him pull up a little bit. I think you saw him get a little spooked in the pocket, a little bit of happy feet. I think that's what that safety was that he gave up early on in the game. And I think that's the problem the Steelers ran into this game, was they needed Aaron Rodgers to just manage the game well. And he didn't. And it's disappointing because I think there were a lot of other things that worked for the Steelers in this game. We talked about the defense. Jaylen Warren averaged 5 yards per carry in this game. And it's so funny because last week I was like, man, Jaylen Warren averaged like less than 2 yards per carry. And if you had told me that, I would have said the Steelers got destroyed by the Colts. This week, if you had told me that the Steelers had averaged 5 yards per carry for Jaylen Warren, I'd have been like, oh, they must have done well. It was quite the opposite in both occasions. But I look at Aaron Rodgers and I think, man, like, what happened in this game? It wasn't just that he was spooked. He was missing open reads I mean, and some people are going to say, oh, if you have a second wide receiver, it's open. Listen, guys were open. DK Metcalf was open. He missed him. Pat Freiermuth was open. He wouldn't see him. Kenneth Gainwell, I felt, was open like every other play he was on the field. And Aaron Rodgers either didn't see them or just did see them and completely missed on the throw. And sometimes you have bad nights. Sometimes you have off nights. We've seen it happen to everybody. Everybody's entitled to a bad game. The Bills just had an atrocious game against the Dolphins, and they got Josh Allen in his prime. Like those things do happen. I think the encouraging thing for the Steelers is that the things that did happen in this game, if Aaron Rodgers has a better performance, it just does very reasonable things that you can normally expect him to do. The Steelers probably get a lot better results, like even beyond the missed reads that we're talking about here, where instead of trying to force it to DK Metcalf on the pass that was intercepted, why not just hit Kenneth Gainwell on the Texas route over the middle where he had inside leverage, was on the move, and could have caught the ball and kept running on that play. And there's other plays too where I thought Darnell Washington was open. I thought Pat Freiermuth was open. If he hits them in certain spots, they can get rumbling. I thought there were a lot of plays out there that Aaron Rodgers left out there. But even if you just take two specific misses into account, and not even the bomb to DK Metcalf on the run, because I'll say, hey, that was on the run. But the throw to Jonnu Smith that he just sailed extremely high, still don't know what happened to that one, that Jonnu Smith almost caught. If that's hits Jonnu Smith in the numbers and he turns upfield, he might get in the end zone in that play. I got to look at the all-22 to be sure. But live, when I watched it and I watched the replay afterwards, I was like, man, he might have gone. And on that drive, Chris Boswell later missed a field goal. And then later, I think it was the third quarter, or maybe it was the fourth quarter. No, it was the fourth quarter when he missed Kenneth Gainwell, and Kenneth Gainwell had to sky up to get a football. And it comes down incomplete. That was the drive where it was a turnover on downs. And Kenneth Gainwell, he's a guy that he catches the ball, he turns upfield, he's quick enough to get anywhere. And he had the end zone in front of him. There were opportunities where if those very simple throws get made, these aren't super complex, split the zone and put it in the right perfect placement. This is basic placement things that he did not do in this game that I think could be an anomaly. But it also could be the question of, is this the start of the fall off? Because the Steelers fans have certainly seen that before. You certainly saw it with Russell Wilson last year, where he went from cooking some really good, teams and talented teams on the road in the middle part of the season to just laying egg after egg at the end of the season. And you saw it years ago in 2020 with Ben Roethlisberger, where throughout the early and middle parts of the season, he looked like he was reading every defense they faced. He was being confident. And then you saw towards the end of the season, he fell off and he wasn't able to really get the same juice in the offense that he had early on. And that's the question I think the Steelers are at right now. Is this about to be the sign of what Aaron Rodgers is moving forward? Or was this just a bad night at Black Rock? And that the Steelers need to trust that he's going to put it together and get it fixed. I think it's the latter, because I don't think I saw any sort of deterioration last week in his game. I don't think I saw any deterioration other than him just getting hit and having to deal with that in this game. But I do think also that if he fixes these things, the Steelers can still be a highly competitive team, because this was not a game that they were out of from start to finish. This is a game that eventually they got pulled away on in the fourth quarter, because again they entered the fourth quarter just down 12, and the defense was playing very well. But I do think if Aaron Rodgers does some basic things that I think are very much within his wheelhouse, the defense showed things and the run game showed things that I think can make this team still a good team that can win more games down the stretch and still get to 10-11 wins and at least make the playoffs and maybe even win the division, even though you're only a game up on the Ravens right now. But I want to talk more about what they need to do there, because I think that's a big part of what the Steelers got going on right now is they need complementary football for the defense and the offense to have good weeks at the same time to beat these teams. But we'll talk more about that next here after the break here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends over there at Peloton. Look, folks, it's time to break through the busiest time of the year with a brand new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus that's powered by Peloton IQ. It's Peloton's most elevated technology and equipment yet that gives you real-time guidance, and it gives you endless ways to move, whether you want to work out by yourself or if you want to work out with your favorite instructor, like my personal favorite, Alex Toussaint. He always gets me fired up to tackle the day. And the thing I like about Peloton, it helps me achieve more in less times. They have features that help you plan, stay motivated, track your progress, and Peloton IQ also provides personalized workout plans and recommendations. That's something that I use right now during the busiest time of the year covering the NFL. They plan my workouts for me based on my mood, my vibe, and also my favorite instructors. So make sure you check it out and use it because it also helps you correct your form in real time, and it maximizes your reps. It counts your reps so that you can do it smarter, safer, and more efficient. Let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
Today's episode is also brought to you by Rippling. If you're a business owner, here's the truth. SaaS promised to make your work easier, but now the average company is buried by hundreds of apps that slow down your teams and simply don't work together. That's not SaaS, that's SAD, software as a disservice. That's why you need Rippling. Rippling is the unified platform for global HR, payroll, IT, and finance all in one place. They've helped millions of businesses replace a mess of disconnected tools with one system designated to give leaders clarity, speed, and control. By uniting your employers, teams, and departments in one system, Rippling removes the bottlenecks, busy work, and silos your software created. It's seriously simple to use and gives companies one source of truth for their people, data, and everything they touch. And right now, you can get 6 months free when you go to rippling.com/lockdownnfl. That's more. Learn more at rippling.com/lockdownnfl. That's rippling.com/lockdownnfl for 6 months free. Terms and conditions apply. We're back here in the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. We continue our episode here, breaking things down on the Steelers. I again want to stress this point about the schemes because there's always a blame on play calls and this, that, and the third. I didn't think the play calls were as much of a problem for Aaron Rodgers' situation because, again, guys were getting open over the middle, open on the sides. I think he got happy feet early because he got hit a couple times. I do think that the offensive line needed to be better, particularly Broderick Jones. I thought that he early on got cooked way too many times. I thought he had better reps as the game went on, but you got to protect your old quarterback. You can't let him get hit too much and get rocked, and for him to lose his confidence and get out of sync. Then everything else just kind of starts to fall apart around you. But again, even when that happened, I expected Aaron Rodgers to at least be able to hit the passes that he missed, like the Jonnu Smith and the Kenneth Gainwell passes, but also just to see the field, like on the DK Metcalf fade to the end zone on fourth down in the fourth quarter. It's double cover. The safety is lined up over top of him, so it has to be like an acrobatic super catch for on top of a great throw for Aaron Rodgers to fit that in there. Meanwhile, Pat Freiermuth ran a good concept behind other guys, and he breaks up into the middle part of the field. And I thought if he hits him just with a simple pass up the middle, it's a touchdown. Now, I got to look at the all-22. Again, I haven't seen that just yet, but I saw several plays drawn up where there were open wide receivers, open tight ends, open anybody, and Aaron Rodgers just wasn't seeing them. Or if he did see him, he was missing them. And that's the disappointing part of this because I think that a lot of other things aligned for the Steelers to have a chance to win this game. The defense kept their offense in check despite the Steelers' offense just floundering the entire game. Again, Jaylen Warren averaged 5 yards per carry. He was getting busy. He had that insane hurdle that he did. I think that this was such a missed opportunity for Aaron Rodgers. But again, I think it comes down to that question of, is he washed? Is it a wrap? Or can he bounce back? Because here's the thing. Aaron Rodgers has had bad games in recent history. You go back through some of the last few years. Let's even just going last year with the Jets. his game against the Steelers was a bad game. He had 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Had some mistakes in that one. But he did not in any way let that define him. He came back in the next 2 games. He threw combined 5 touchdowns to no interceptions. And I think he can bounce back and give you that too, because I still think that he sees the field. He understands football very well. I still think he's very smart in that regard. I still think that that's going to be an asset for the Steelers moving forward the rest of the season. But he has to show it. Because if this does happen again, it's going to be a big question for the Steelers as far as like, hey, wait a second. What do we do here? Because you expected this guy to make the smart decisions with the football, and he's not. Or when he does, he misses guys. And that's why I think it's a one-off. I don't think that it's going to be this bad for Aaron Rodgers the rest of the season. But the Steelers got to, prepare their crops for rain. Because I do think that there is an opportunity here still for the Steelers to win this division. Definitely make the playoffs, but maybe even win this division. Because I know that some people are going to look and they're going to say, wow, the Ravens caught up. They're 4-5. The Steelers are 5-4, so they're only a game up on them now. And I hear that. But I also remind people that, like, we all said this was going to happen, right? Like, after the bye, they were going to beat the Bears, beat the Dolphins, beat the Vikings, probably going to beat the Browns and the Jets, probably going to beat the Bengals. And then it really starts for Baltimore because whereas the Steelers do have their tough stretch, the Ravens also have a tough stretch. In their last 5 games, they have the Steelers twice. They're on the road in Cincinnati. They have the Patriots at home and Green Bay on the road. And I truly think that the Steelers, if they split with Baltimore, at least split with Baltimore, they have a chance to still win the division, get to 10-11 wins, and handle their business that way, get a home playoff game, and get things a little bit different for them. So all hope is not lost for the Steelers in that regard, but they need to play complementary football. Because I think right now the Steelers defense is figuring things out. They're communicating at a high level, even when they're beat. And listen, Brandon Echols got cooked on some plays by Ladd McConkey. But in large part, they took away what the Chargers were trying to do in this game offensively. Their running back did pop off some decent runs, but he ended up averaging less than 4 yards per run. I thought that when the Steelers defense needed some key stops in this game, they got several. They kept giving the offense chances. And again, that's why it was just so disappointing with Aaron Rodgers, was that you expect him to cash in on some of those. And he just didn't. I know some people talk about, they have to have turnovers to win. It's what they do. They're sacrificing the game plan to just go for turnovers. That's not what's happening there. They're trying to create the conditions that are going to be tough for any offense to succeed. And then they create those conditions, then they try to get turnovers because that's often when they make the biggest mistakes. And I think that's simply what that's about. And if the Steelers defense continues what I think that they've done the last 2 weeks, and I know on paper it looks like, they scored 25 points, but a lot of that was just being worn out by possession after possession when your Steelers offense goes 2 of 11 on third downs. I mean, the drive sheet, for the Steelers offense goes 3-and-out punt, 4-and-out field goal, 3-and-out safety, missed field goal, punt, interception, end of the half. And so you had all those different opportunities, and you kept missing on there. And then second half, you had 2 punts, 7 plays of offense in the third quarter, a turnover on downs where you were moving the ball, but then you stalled inside the red zone. Then you threw an interception, and then you did get a garbage time touchdown in the end. With all those plays, if you can just turn just 2 of those drives into scoring drives, changes the demeanor of this game entirely. It puts more pressure on the Chargers to have to figure things out. It puts more pressure on Justin Herbert to have to make some big plays. And maybe you get some mistakes, but you also have to capitalize on their mistakes. And that's something the Steelers didn't do in this one. They get a kickoff out of bounds and they get a penalty right after that to wipe out the good yardage that they got or a good field position that they got. You can't have, several critical penalties, false starts to open games. You can't have those type of moments. You can't drop interceptions that are thrown right to you. And I think that was something that, caught me off guard when I saw how well that was covered. I was like, I'm not sure if that's going to hold. For the most part, it did. The two times they really got beat in the passing game, they just lost because they were in man, and Brandon Echols just could not stick with Ladd McConkey, which he's a tough guy to stick with. But by and large, they limited the run game, and the pass rush definitely got working. Another sack from Keeanu Benton. He has 4.5 on the season. He had 2 combined going into this year. TJ Watt with another sack. That's his 6th game in his last 7 games that he's had a sack. Nick Herbig got the second straight game in a row where Alex Highsmith gets 2 sacks. This team can still get after the quarterback. It can still create the conditions where they can get teams to play in a way that favors the Steelers. I think they have that capability, but they need complementary football at the bottom line. If the defense figures some things out and they start to be the hype again late in the season, the offense needs to be building with them. And that's what I think is going to be really interesting to see is can they hit on all cylinders both at the same time? Because if they do, could be really interesting to see this team against other good teams. But to me, there's still potential there for it, especially because of what I saw in the defense. And even though it was really disappointing to see Aaron Rodgers fold the way he did in this game, again, I do think there is a way for him to bounce back from that. And it'll be interesting to see how he tries to do that next here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. We'll break all of that down. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Stick with us. We'll be right back. But first, I remind you this show is brought to you also by FanDuel Sportsbook, the #1 sportsbook in America. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the show, you want to write a hot hand, FanDuel has live bets from everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even start to combine your live bets in the same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first bet of $5 or more wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast, I'm your host, Chris Carter. We continue our episode here. I want to point this out. This was a terrible game for the Steelers, especially offensively, but it wasn't terrible in the sense that they got their butts kicked on both sides because the defense did their job to stay in this game. In fact, they made quite a few plays. They just didn't create any turnovers. But, I mean, when you sack Justin Herbert 5 times, Alex Highsmith with 2, Herbig with 1, Watt with 1, Benton with another one. Benton now with 4.5 sacks, by the way, this season. And you saw the plays that they were able to make. They were able to limit the Chargers to be 6 of 17 on third downs. And the Chargers came in as the #1 third down offense. It's another reason why it's such a disappointing loss is because the defense did a good job in this game of making this a football game for as long as they did. But I think that the things that I saw on defense are encouraging, that the defense maybe could be figuring things out right now, even while they're depleted numbers-wise, because still no Deshaun Elliott. Darius Slay went down in this game. Joey Porter got hurt at one point. They had to rotate Ramsey down in the corner, but Joey Porter came back. But, I mean, coverage-wise, they were on it. They were communicating. They were in there. And look, some of the passes that Justin Herbert completed, especially I think it was a 59-yarder to Ladd McConkey. Brandon Echols, or 58-yarder. Brandon Echols was right on top of him. The touchdown that Echols gave up was pretty bad. And there were a couple of times that he got beat badly. But that play, that was just a great throw and a great catch, on that play with tight coverage on top of it. But outside of that, the Steelers were able to limit a lot of what the Chargers wanted to do in this game offensively. And this is with a talented receiving core. They were communicating, they were taking things away, they were jumping on routes, they were setting things up to take away things, to set Justin Herbert up for mistake throws. And again, they were getting pressure. TJ Watt was having to go through different ways and getting held a lot, but still getting home, still fighting. So again, even when the game was started to break out of hand, and the Steelers offense just kept handing the ball back over with no points, and the defense, you could see getting tired. They kept fighting. They kept getting stops. And to me, that's a good sign for this team, especially after what they did last week against the Colts. So like, hey, there's two weeks where I think that they came out with a good plan on defense and they executed it well enough. Last week, I think they executed it really well. But I think the defense did what it could in this game to give the Steelers a chance to win, and that's a good sign moving forward, because that's the thing that has to happen more consistently. The Steelers get to play the Bengals offense in their rematch coming up this next week. This needs to be a time where the Steelers defense shows, hey, those last two games you saw from us, they were for real. We have improved. Let's show it at the same time. And if they can get that with Aaron Rodgers waking up from his one really bad game for the team this year, and the energy from the Steelers offense is firing, this team can compete with good teams. I mean, heck, again, we've seen them beat good teams. But what I think what needs to happen right now is the Steelers need to keep finding those younger players that are contributing and keep getting them opportunities to help you win football games, to learn from these moments. You know, on defense, I think you're seeing, again, Benton, Harmon up front being difference makers. Peyton Wilson, I thought, did a good job in this game. I thought Patrick Queen also did a good job in this game. You know, and again, the pass rush, Nick Herbig being the man, Alex Highsmith, TJ, they were doing their jobs. Sometimes you're going to get bad games from your quarterback, and you need to bounce back from that. But I think that if the Steelers can get what largely has been what Aaron Rodgers had been this year, which is not gun shy in the pocket, not happy feet, processing what he sees, making good decisions, making good throws, accurate throws. Guys who say, "Oh, he has no more accuracy; it's all gone." And I'm like, I don't know if he has no accuracy next week, then let's talk about it. But I've seen him make some very accurate throws to the Steelers this year, both on the playing field and on the practice field. So I wouldn't say it's that. I just think sometimes you get got. Sometimes you lose to a good team, and that's what happened here. Still doesn't excuse it. You want to come out, be better. You want to come out and win. But again, I think that if you're looking for where this team is going, how this team is trying to move forward, there is a path forward. You can have, I think, Aaron Rodgers be good at the same time as the defense in an important game, which is what the Steelers really need right now. They need some good timely plays. I think that the Bengals game, it is a must win. If you're going to get to the 10-11 win mark, you need to win this game coming up. But I think it's a very, very winnable win. Whereas the next time that they keep pushing forward and you see something. I mean, the Bears game right after that don't look easy. The Bills game right after that, won't be easy. Then you get the Ravens in Baltimore. If you can get some complimentary football in those three games, then maybe you change the tune of the season. But right now, you have a team that keeps kind of going back and forth with which unit is its best unit. For a while, it was definitely the offense, but the defense was definitely the better unit against the Colts, and they were definitely the better unit against the Chargers. And I think it's encouraging to see them taking that step forward. But the next thing the Steelers need is they need to bring it together. They need some complete performances. And the Bengals are a team that have largely been struggling this year. They're coming off a bye week. But the Steelers have to come out and they have to, I think, do a lot of things that they've been trying to set up on their own end, which is get the run game going, win time of possession again. but I do think it's there to be had. Again, I've always maintained this is not a Super Bowl team, but this is going to be a competitive team. And I think that if they're going to continue that competitiveness, they need to be able to keep working, keep fighting, and play some complementary football where the defense is getting the stops and the turnovers and the offense is putting up points. Because again, if the offense just takes what's there in this game, changes everything about it. If Aaron Rodgers hits Johnny Smith when he's wide open, it hits Kenneth Gainwell while he's wide open, or hits DK Metcalf early on that bomb. What kind of a different game is that? And that's why I think it's football such a great game, is because it could come down to, you could point to several different things and it can come down to certain plays that stick with you, but there's always a lot to improve each week. And I think the Steelers defense right now is improving. So if someone stops you and says, "Oh, they're just losing the same way," and it's not the same ways. They're losing. They're trying to get everything in. And I think that right now, this loss, it stings. But as Cam Hayward will still tell you, as both athletes will tell you, you can't get too high from your highs. You can't get too low from your lows. And I think that's the thing the Steelers have to focus in on right now, is they have to come back with their plans, get ready to execute, keep things moving, but trust that Aaron Rodgers is going to make the reads and adjust with you. Because if he does and he makes plays, it's going to make for an interesting run for the Steelers, because I think this defense can continue to trend upwards. But there's still plenty of season left for them to do that. I want to look at the All-22. We're going to do our Stars and Skulls grades tomorrow. And I want to see where can we find more parts of this offense that were potentially, an opportunity left on the board that, maybe I didn't even see live in this game. Because I do think that, again, Arthur Smith is scheming up some interesting concepts and some things that I'm seeing open up on TV. I want to take all 22 to look back and see what they're trying to do and what Aaron Rodgers couldn't do, and how much this was just attributed to him not wanting to take a hit and just trying to preserve himself. All questions that we will explore when we get more chances to review the tape here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, wherever you get social media. That's my handle, at Carter Critiques. You can read my work in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette by going to post-gazette.com. You can find me here every day, Monday through Friday, on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoy it. Subscribe to this channel to get all of your daily Monday through Friday episodes here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. We'll see you tomorrow when we've had a chance to look more at those Steelers grades.